Welcome to ReReview, where we watch movies from our past with a perspective from today. Your hosts are Matt, Bobby, and Austin, and we love the films from our youth, so we're taking a look back to see if they still hold up. On this episode, we're discussing Predator. It was released in 1987 and directed by John McTiernan. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, and Kevin Peter Hall. This movie is about jungle battles. Now, this is a fair warning. We're spoiling a 37-year-old movie, so if you haven't seen it, we will be revealing key plot points. Guess I feel like I want to start with just Arnold as a whole. I know we've watched a few Arnold movies here, and my memory is not that great. But I'm trying to think of, in my youth, my first big Arnold stuff was probably related to Conan. What was your earliest Arnold?
The first rated R movie I ever saw in theaters was Terminator 2. So
wait, Terminator or Terminator 2?
No, Terminator 2.
Oh, okay.
So he's been along.
And you didn't see anything Arnold before that?
Yeah, I feel like when I was young, I really wasn't allowed to watch any of those kinds of things. So I had to watch the cut up TV versions of stuff.
We do always go back to those USA versions.
Yeah.
Matt, for you?
It was probably Terminator 2 on USA Network. I know exactly what I remember being in like my aunt and uncle's house watching it at the time and being blown away by how real the visual effects were.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the first one that I saw. And then I think I saw Conan. No, wait. Did he appear in the Red Sonja at all? Or was it just the Conan? Yeah, it was that one first, and then I saw Conan the Barbarian, and then I watched Beastmaster and thought it was him. And then somebody corrected me.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that is not Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I was like, oh, okay.
I could understand the mix up there. Bobby, you mentioned the thing here in terms of being able to watch rated R movies. Arted movies. And we go through this film. This is, I guess we'd say it's a very violent film. Language-wise, feels kind of tame in this day and age, but this is rated R. Before we even get into it, let me ask you, Bobby, do you think this is a rated R movie today?
I guess it makes it is pretty bloody. The skinning stuff, you won't see anything much worse than Indiana Jones movies, which aren't rated R. Like that kind of like shock factor gore stuff, like the melting faces and the skinned dudes. Like, I feel like that's in the same kind of category. So
I don't even know that we usually get into thinking about rating changes, but Matt, do you feel like this holds like a rated R still?
I think it still holds a rated R, but I definitely think that by 80s movies, like, thresholds, I feel like it's probably on the lighter end of rated R. I definitely think that, if you compare this to, heck, the movie that he did right after this, which was the same year, Running Man, I feel like that was probably much more graphic than this one was.
The 80s like bullet hits are much more like bloody and more, I feel like there's
something. RoboCop.
Yeah.
If you want to look at like the king of, just the one scene alone in RoboCop, I think that this one definitely pushed it in little areas. But I think that if you were to make a rated R movie like this nowadays, I feel like they probably would have pushed it a little bit further in comparison.
It feels like PG-13 plus or rated R light.
Yeah, it feels like they probably. Maybe they filmed it in a way that they could have gone either way. And maybe they just felt that, because I did see this on TV and it definitely was a cutaway every time something happened.
Yeah.
Like the what was his name? Mac, that scene. I definitely remember that scene being a cutaway. You saw the 3 red dots and then it just cut away to his feet or something.
Yeah, I guess I'm definitely desensitized. Unfortunately, I'm sitting here like, oh, this wasn't that bad. Yeah, I think you heard me react at one point where I was like, oh my gosh, because there definitely was just an element of probably the first big battle where Arnold and team are just crushing everyone into the ground, but then it felt cartoonish simultaneously, which just made me think, oh, I guess maybe this is a little PG-13. We have a whole bunch of, elite army personnel led by Dutch, who is Arnold, who's here to help rescue, not a diplomat, right? What was it? Rescue a commander? Someone important, quote unquote. And it's all a ruse. Just so we can watch Arnold and a bunch of men blow some shit up in the jungle, right? That's all it was, right?
Manly man.
Manly men?
greasy, hairy, muscly man.
Well, the funny thing about it too is when you watch it and you see the movie in hindsight, it's the only time when they're winning. Like they win, like really hard against those I don't know what you want to call them, rebels or whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like they dominate, barely even get scratched, and then they have to take on the Predator, and it's just a 180 all of a sudden.
And then they take off all their clothes. I mean,
wait, which movie were you watching? I don't know if we were watching the same one.
I think there was. I think we haven't even gotten there yet, but there's definitely the point where, like, oh, we have Arnold in this film, so we're just gonna have him strike poses and pretend he's doing exercises in the jungle, just because. What else should we do for 5 minutes? You got to utilize all that strength, right?
I mean, you get this cast together. I mean, but it is kind of funny when you look at them because you had a very clear division. You had the bodybuilders, and then you had the nerds. Like
right.
You had these twerpy little dudes, and then you had these Greek god dudes or whatever, and that was the team. There was I think Mac was the only one that might have been in the middle, maybe.
They were trying to create balance, right? I think there's a lot to we could think about, like, the special effects that we see, and I'm always a fan of kind of seeing how well blue screen gets handled, especially during our re-reviews. And they're flying through the jungle, they're in the helicopter. They did so much stuff that was practical that looked great, but when they were inside the helicopter itself, that's where I saw the blue screen before they were dropping out. You know what I said? This doesn't look too bad for being an 80s movie. I was happy with that particular effect. I know we eventually get into meeting the Predator and seeing the what was my first reaction? Oh yes, a magic eye type effect. Knowing that we don't actually see what the Predator looks like for a while, we were inundated with special vision. And when I say inundated, I mean they hit you over the head with looking at it from the point of view of the Predator. What were you feeling in terms of the lead up before we even saw the creature and dealing with all that kind of special vision stuff?
I mean, it was a lot, and it was, it's funny because, watching, I can't remember how old I was when I watched this. I had to be probably around 12 or so, probably, when I watched it. And this might have been the first time I had ever really seen thermal vision. Maybe not. I mean, it's definitely not real thermal vision for sure, considering what, we see nowadays. But that's probably my first time seeing it. But in watching it now, I was like, my God, like one shot would have been fine. Like just do the one time and then the scorpion shot. That's it.
I want to ask about the technical side of it. Like, what exactly were we seeing?
I assume rotoscope. That's my thought.
That's exactly what I thought too. I was thinking it was some kind of like animation kind of thing.
Maybe that's just what they kept using because, like, we paid for this. We're going to use every second of this.
Right. I mean, there was some other cool animation. Like there was some cool like lightning effects and various kinds of things. And so I kind of liked the, 80s practical, like hand-drawn lightning and stuff like that.
Well, they definitely went hard on the pyrotechnics, right? And in particular, the fireworks.
Yeah, like
I think there were multiple times I was like, "Oh, is this just the movie for them to have excuse for fireworks?" Remind me of Tropic Thunder at parts, right?
Yeah, they had like so many scenes when they had the rebel attack of just like dudes burning. And so I know that's like a big deal, like to do on film, where they have to like wrap up the stuntman and all this like all this fire protective stuff. And it just seemed like they had so many people like burning. There must have been like at least like 8 full body burns in that part. And some of them like came and went in pretty quick cuts. I was like, wow, that's pretty intense to be doing all that.
Well, we could talk about the chaos of that scene just in terms of, I think, Matt, maybe you mentioned this, but there are these, I put the note where they're mercenaries, but we know there's some kind of elite squad. But as they do that first kind of rebel attack, they sure didn't feel elite, right? They felt scattered and disassociated as working as a group. And more importantly, I didn't understand how they don't even have comms or things to like really talk to each other. Right. So maybe I'm a little too modern, but I was like, how in the hell were they communicating? They seem like they're all shooting different directions. It's a miracle they actually survived that attack.
It is a miracle they didn't hit each other, because there's a lot of times where like he didn't even look where he was shooting.
Right. I mean, these kinds of movies always have some kind of like, I don't know what you call it, like some kind of like aggressive banter between the characters, you know, like they don't really get along, and maybe over time they do get along better, but in the beginning they definitely like fight it. I can think of so many 80s movies where there's like a team of mercenaries or whatever, and they're all just bickering between each other
because they can. Yeah.
I mean, I think that a lot of it probably came from the actors themselves in this case, because I mean, just watching the behind the scenes of this, there was a lot of personality between, at the very least, Arnold, Carl, and Jesse, for sure. There was a lot of machismo in between them. And so I know they were doing a lot of back and forth. I guess the modern equivalent would be like the Fast and Furious crew, with Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson, like just the concept of like, oh, well, if I throw a punch, this other guy, like, no, in their contracts, they can't look too weak. And just watching the behind the scenes, I know they were like, I know Arnold and Jesse were very much comparing biceps and like seeing who won.
I saw that too. Yeah.
So I think that a lot of that probably bled over into this. Cause I mean, they very much went for, all of them had to have their own unique personality, character traits. I mean, some of them kind of nothing traits. Cause I mean, we had like Mac, literally his thing was, I'm going to shave all the time.
Like have a drink, or he has booze on him.
Yeah. And I mean,
I feel like he was shaving like just as a setup so that he could break it when he was surprised.
What an odd detail.
Yeah, I know.
And because we only see him shave twice, right? We see him shave in the helicopter, and then we see him shave when he breaks it, right?
Yeah. Still, though.
So what is that setup, Bobby? Like, what is the
point? Well, why was he shaving twice? I was just like, this guy's shtick is that he's always shaving.
Well, it's like he's always shaving. Jesse Ventura is always chewing tobacco. Like everyone had their one little thing. Like you'd kind of think that, yeah, maybe they would have paid off. Like, I don't know, when Jesse Ventura gets hit, maybe the tobacco comes out or something. just to have it in there as like a callback.
I guess one of the things I think about is we get through the intro, we see the guys, we get through this big rebel scene. How do you really feel about the pacing of this movie? Because at an hour 50, for me, it felt like a very long hour 50. We spent a lot of time walking through the jungle.
I think the middle part definitely dragged. I remember thinking that, like, you know, we, for the most part, we got to the setup pretty quick, getting to the jungle compound, getting to that action sequence. But then we didn't have any other action sequence for at least a solid like 20 minutes, I felt, if not more, when the first attack came. And that's where I kind of thought like that was probably a mistake on their part, not to have something happening during that time. Even if it was something like, I don't know, maybe having one of the rebels get away during the whole thing and then having the Predator catch up to him a little bit later. Which, why did the Predator never attack the rebels now that I think about it? He attacked the helicopter people. Those rebels were very well armed, but he never touched them. He just went after the Green Berets.
He was getting to them. He just didn't do it yet.
Damn, Bobby, stop defending the writing.
Well, I mean, we only learned, what, 3/4 into the movie? Oh, he only attacks you if you have a weapon. Unless you're Arnold at the end of the movie, and then he sets you up so you can have a one-on-one battle.
Yeah, and then I think when the sequel, it kind of converted from, it's not so much not having a weapon as much as like if you're like male versus female. Like,
oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if it was because somebody called that out. Like, well, but he didn't have a weapon anymore. And maybe somebody said, oh, it's actually because it was, you know, what was her name? Anna?
He still
because
seemed
of
like an
woman.
active threat, even though he didn't have a weapon, right? Like I thought it was based on that. Like it's
Well,
because for him it was
tell me spectacles was an active threat?
because did it become
Dude
more of
probably had
like
asthma.
a sport kind of situation? Because that's what they explained in the later movies, right?
Yeah, but I question whether or not that was just, trying to flush out like plot inconsistencies.
Because there's some kind of something, right? Like so basically like a spaceship flies by, it spits out a pod, and then later on they're trying to figure out what's going on. And basically like it's an alien just killing a bunch of people for fun.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, again, the later movies, they make it into it's a hunting sport. It's also a rite of passage for predators, and other versions where they're sent down and in order for them to be considered, I don't know, men, whatever they'd be called, then they have to hunt. And that's why they have to collect the skull trophies as proof of it. There's a whole mythos they built on it. I guarantee you the comics probably really went into this. I mean, I still remember playing the video games, the Alien versus Predator video games in the arcades and whatnot. Like there's whole stories revolving around it for that, but I don't think honestly that they had that for this movie. I don't think they thought it out that far.
Because I'm confused by certain things. Because I don't get the skinning other than to just like build tension and make everybody worried that could happen to them, kind of thing.
Yeah, that did seem kind of, unless all of a sudden he was just wearing like a man robe or whatever made out of all the skins.
Right.
I think it would have made it creepier if he was, right?
It's just like he took off the mask and he was just a human face underneath stitched together.
Okay, that's a totally different movie. Might be worth watching, but totally different movie. Yeah, I guess, one of the thoughts I had, and maybe you're right, if this came before the comics or did the comics come first?
I'm 100% sure that this came first and then the comics kind of came afterwards and the games did too.
Because like Bobby, you mentioned, this alien spaceship just spits by and throws the predator out, and you're saying it's a hunting for sport thing. Are they doing this on other planets? They just know that our planet is the one full of humans, so they pick this one in particular because they think we're worth hunting?
I mean, I think that's the idea. In the future movies, they explain that they basically go everywhere doing the same thing.
I think my other question is, how long was the predator here before
it happened? Yeah.
Because I wasn't clear, like in the very beginning, like, because like they said there was this mission to kind of like, there was this ruse mission you talked about, but I was like, well, did they know about the predators? Like, I wasn't sure. Like, I mean, did the predator just happen to be there and they were doing this mission? Like, it had nothing to do with the predator at all, and then.
It seemed that way, right?
Yeah,
At least that's the intent.
Yeah, I don't think that it had anything to do with the predator. I think that they had their mission and the predator happened to be there, and it caused the inciting incident. But it's not like they knew the predator was going to be there. Like, I mean, later versions they apparently know about the predator, but at that point, I don't think they had any clue. I mean, because what's his face, Carl Weathers, his character, he knew everything, but he still was. For a majority of it, this is 2 or 3 guys messing with us.
Yeah, he was convinced it was humans.
Yeah.
Right. It just seemed like a little bit weird to me because it almost would have made sense to me if Carl Weathers would have known something about the predator and that's why he brought that whole team. But like, it seemed like coincidental that they brought the whole like team of like the A-team type.
I think it's because the other team failed. The Green Berets failed. Who do you get besides Green Berets to succeed?
Right, but I mean, like, so what's interesting is they thought the Green Berets failed because of the guerrillas, but in reality, the Green Berets failed because of the predator.
Yeah, but they didn't know that. They just thought these rebels messed them up. So maybe they underestimated them or something. So I don't know.
Right.
Well, we saw shimmering predator, then we eventually do see the camouflage fail. Let's talk about the predator design. Predator design. I'm just struggling with my words today.
Predator.
Bobby, were you a fan of seeing the predator for the first time?
No, I thought he looked really cool, but I thought he looked less cool when he talks and laughs.
What do you have against his English voice?
Which, by the way, Peter Cullen did the voice for Predator.
Wow.
Yes.
Predators roll out. I thought that. I mean, I thought he looked really cool with his like mandible thing and all that, and I thought it was a really neat looking design. But I thought the laugh was a little bit much and all that other stuff.
But it was studying the human language, right? That's why we got the sound waves and the recordings and kind of learning to play it back.
Yeah, and then I thought when it kind of tried to do that like medical procedure on itself, it had like this like
Oh, it was super. That felt like superhuman.
It had like an airbrush or whatever. It was like, okay, let me like inject something into my arm here. Like,
well, one of the things you pointed out, Matt, is that was not the original Predator design. And on top of having a Kevin Peter Hall play the Predator, there was someone else who was actually the Predator to start. My beloved Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Mr. Splits himself.
Mr. Splits himself. That you showed us the design. That was radically different.
It felt like a Sci-Fi Channel design more than, and I don't know. I know Stan Winston's team was involved in this, but I don't know if they were involved at that point or if they were brought in afterwards when they did the redesign, because it definitely feels more Stan Winston-y with the Predator design that we got. Like I just feel the elements that his team would put together. I don't know if they did the original. If they did the original, it was definitely not the A team that did that, because in no shape, form, whatever, would that qualify as a non-hilarious? Like it's just not intimidating at all.
Yeah, I wonder if it ended up just looking too much like a suit, and because I mean, it does look like for the design that they did go with for the movie, that it's got more humanistic aspects to it. Like you can see like eyes, like through the suit and stuff. And so it's just like, it's humanoid, but it just kind of alien just enough to know that it's not from this world. But that other kind of situation with like, if it looked like a giant bug or whatever, it's just like, it doesn't seem like there's enough to make that work, to make it not look like it's just a dude in a suit running around.
It did. Well, I mean, a part of it for me that I thought was a little off was the movements, because there were times where it definitely seemed like he was on wires, which is fine. But even when it was in the camo movements, it would be very slow motion. And then other times when it just felt normal, like it was obeying the laws of gravity. I always felt a little off seeing like it jumping from tree to tree, but it made it a very like slow, long kind of gap between it moving from obstacle to obstacle, and then next thing you know, it'd be working like a regular, normal two-legged creature. I don't know. I felt a little off by that.
Yeah, and again, maybe this is one of the things where they got part of the way through. Because I mean, there's pictures and footage of they got a good way into it before they did the switch, and then they did the switch, and maybe it's entirely possible. Maybe the original Predator was supposed to be the Predator, and maybe they just didn't finish in time. They literally had to go. Maybe they literally pulled that suit out from like a 1970s sci-fi movie and just threw it on set and be like, it's all right. We'll use those non-CG effects that don't exist yet to replace it. And then they did switch.
I get the Jaws feeling, like, cause in Jaws, they had the shark point of view. And so we had like the Predator point of view with the thermal vision. And then also with Jaws, like the whole trick there was don't show the shark because the shark didn't work, right? And so this is like, don't show the Predator. The Predator doesn't work. You don't see the Predator hardly at all until the very end.
But it's weird though, because I do feel like the final version of the Predator, and I'm going to say like I love the design, and I had the Predator toys as a kid, because like this is one of those franchises that there's no reason why there should be toys for kids from this franchise, because they shouldn't have been watching it. Right. But I had the toys, like I had all the ones, like they would always do those things where they would have designs for Predators that were never in any of the movies.
Sure.
They would always, like the one I remember was I had one, it had like gold and it had like horns, like bull horns or whatever. And like it had a mask that would like clip onto its face, and it had like all these, like I think it had a tail that had like spikes or spinning disc on it. Coolest toy I ever had. And like I I really like that design when it has the mask on. As soon as it takes its mask off, I'm kind of out of it. And it's 100% the mouth, I think. Like, I'm sure in real life, those mandibles and everything would be terrifying. But for whatever reason, it just never really clicked with me. The mask being on was always far more intimidating than when it came off. And I think they probably knew that to some extent.
Right.
Because it like switched from a warrior to a weird alien creature.
I mean, with the mask, it's like, it's up to your own imagination to determine what's underneath the mask. And then when you see it, it's like, oh.
Well, like, especially because there's no eyes. Like it is a solid thing. It's almost like the Michael Myers mask. I feel like obviously the whole thing about it's a Captain Kirk mask or whatever, and they painted it and they roughed up the hair, but then they also cut out the eye holes larger. So it was slightly inhuman. You couldn't see the actual eyes anymore. I think that as much as directors will harp on, you have to be able to see their eyes and their face to get the emotion out of it. The fact that you can't makes it more terrifying whenever it's a bad guy.
Right.
Because there is no humanity.
Especially something that's supposed to be hunting, right? And in creating that mystery, we see its weaponry. We understand that it's more advanced. It's got thermal vision. Well, we could talk about its regular vision after a bit, but there's all this setup that leads to Predator kills everybody. But then Arnold's the one who's going to find himself after escaping in a whole bunch of mud, realizes that the thermal vision doesn't work when he's covered in said mud. And then we get into this very lengthy, he has all the time in the world. Again, this is a predator and a hunter who's in the trees, yet somehow gives Arnold all the time in the world, Dutch, to set up all the booby traps. What was that sequence? Was it like a day and a half? It felt like.
He had, because he had like one. It's not like he had equipment, right? He had some leftover equipment, but it's not like, I don't remember him having an axe or anything like that. But somehow he found perfect vines to make into ropes, and he fashioned arrows and all this stuff. He whittled away he got the knife or whatever. So yeah, I could kind of see it, but he had all this time. Whereas he could have just as easily just spent that same amount of time, made a raft, covered himself in mud, and just sailed away. The Predator didn't seem to care until he drawed it to him. Like, he was more concerned about his trophies, apparently.
Yeah, now the Predator had an alternate itinerary he needed to get done while Dutch was doing the...
Yeah, well, okay, here's a better question. What was the Predator doing?
Yeah, the Predator had a list of things he had to go through. It's like, okay.
He's a collector.
Sleeping, most likely.
Right.
Yeah.
He takes pride in his job, He had to polish those skulls, and
it just took such a long time, right? And then they eventually get into the battle, and we get this, I said Predator pride before fall, but acting like, I guess, the quintessential hunter of saying, well, I'm going to play with my prey that I'm going after. And Arnold, of course, proves himself to be Arnold. But the mask comes off, and we get to see regular Predator vision. Is it because we are human that we can't understand how that red nastiness is actually a value add?
Yeah. I'm baffled by it because very few cases where you have natural predators where their vision is bad. Like, you might have a case where it's like, something like, wildcats, where they have great night vision and they do have slightly worse day vision. And, there is very warped in some sense where like it's blurry. And if you it's like if you have a cat, like they can't see anything like within a few inches of its face, but it can see like a pigeon a mile away or something. Right.
It's like a very convenient plot thing. Like, like the Tyrannosaurus Rex who can't see you if you don't move kind of thing.
Yeah. But how do you tell me that species developed space travel? They can't see shit, but they have inter-universal space travel.
The Predator's like, oh no, I dropped my glasses. Darn it. It's going to be so much harder to do.
Well, that's probably why it needs a thermal vision, because if not, it's all red. And it's like, oh, I need to detect cool colors.
Oh, that's actually a good point but then again, he was still, because I'm like, that would make sense if the same thing with like the cats, right? Maybe they came from a planet that was naturally colder. And so a natural heat vision would make them be able to see so maybe the mask is actually a filter more than anything else to help them kind of tone it down. Damn, I'm helping the writers.
Wait. No, I was going to say, correct us in the comments. Tell us how Predator Vision works, please. Now, I think one of my gripes here is, and this is more than just this movie, a lot of movies do this. Couldn't Arnold have just used the rock after the tree slam and just killed the damn Predator? Why did he have like some element of compassion because there was Predator blood all over the jungle?
Was it compassion, or was it like, wow, this thing really is like a non-human alien kind of thing?
Just like hubris, because he figured that he had won, so he didn't even really... He thought he had the opportunity to bask in his victory, I guess, a little bit, and to ask a question, I guess. I don't know. It, from a plot point of view, it had to happen in order to get that sequence of him blowing up, and in a way, it kind of tells you a lot about the predators as a species, that it is they aren't taken alive or dead. Like they'd rather blow themselves up than be taken as a trophy.
They die.
Like maybe it is a "we will not be taken as a trophy" type thing. I don't know. It's the plot needed it to happen, but you're right. Arnold really needed to double tap there.
That's super double tap. Could have studied him. We would have understood, and we're prepared when they come next time. He goes off in the chopper and is saved. Everyone's happy. Finish the movie. Bobby, are you recommending The Predator?
Yes, watch The Predator, man. It's cool.
That was the quickest one yet.
Yeah, I have nothing else.
I will take it's cool.
It's
Matt,
fine.
are you recommending The Predator?
I think that it's worth a watch. I think that definitely if you're a fan of 80s movies, I think this is a quintessential 80s movie in the sense of action. It's definitely not a 16 Candles for sure, but it is what you would expect from an 80s movie. I think that it has a nice balance between sci-fi and, not being too high tech at the same time. It's got a little bit for everyone.
I think it does a good job of like being what it is.
Yeah. It's unapologetic.
It doesn't pretend to be like...
No, it doesn't try to be too smart. It doesn't try to be, too deep on, character story. It's just, one of those kind of, what would you call it? A popcorn movie? Popcorn flick or whatever.
Thank you for saying what my suggestion was going to be. I feel like this is one where you may be able to pop 2 to 3 microwave bags of popcorn, because there's going to be points where you can just hang out and maybe eat a little bit more than you expected. I would have loved to seen this in a nice Bobby time frame. That 90-minute mark probably would have made me happier. Just cut it down a little bit. But yes, it's quintessential 80s, and it's Arnold, and it's got Get to the Chopper. Like, come on. If you haven't seen it, watch it. If you have seen it, my understanding is this is probably the best one out of all of them. Is that accurate?
Some people would probably make some arguments for... I actually think Predator 2 holds up well.
Oh.
Maybe we have to add that to the list. I think we're
going to have to.
It at least takes the elements from this one and does something a little bit different with it. It puts it in an urban environment. And what does that mean for this kind of scenario? Let
me guess. Are there 2 Predators now?
No, still just technically, without getting too into it, it's mostly just one, but yeah.
Okay.
But it's mostly there are
spoiler alert.
The other ones I feel like are a little bit less. I did enjoy Prey for what it was, because it was a period piece taking place in with a Native American tribe and an indigenous tribe, and being a little bit more low tech in that sense, and getting to see an earlier version of a Predator. I think it was enjoyable for what it is. I think that it doesn't enjoy the same benefit that this movie does of just being a go along for the ride type movie.
It is that. It just feels a little long for me. So get the popcorn. Yes, we're all saying watch it, but I'm just saying maybe get ready for some time in the jungle that you're going to be a little bit bored for and you might fall asleep on. As always, thank you for listening, and remember, she's your baggage. You fall behind and you're on your own.